Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man coming to you from parts unknown. I hope everyone's doing well tonight, or whenever you tune into this broadcast. I appreciate everybody that comes by to see me and discuss the events of the day, the week, the past 10 years. Oh, what did I call it last night? Painful patience. That's the stage we're in right now. But we are seeing progress. And I do remember one thing that Trump said, and I think he said it sooner than he wanted to, but it doesn't really matter. It was at the end of uh, the 2020 debate with Joe Biden. One of the questioners asked him what he would say at his inaugural if he were elected. And of course, Joe Biden got the same question, but he was told beforehand. Trump was thrown a curveball, and Trump said, with success, you bring unity. Unity brings, success brings unity. So, what he's showing us right now, not zeroing in on prosecutions and personally getting involved in retribution. That's happening, although sometimes it seems a glacial pace. He's working on success to achieve his ultimate goal, which is unity of the country as much as possible. Like when he gave a $10,000 bonus to TSA agents for dutifully showing up for work during the shutdown. What kind of message does that send? A wonderful message. You had them doing the Trump dance when they got the bonus checks. But it's also prepping for what I believe will be a coming shutdown, January 30th. We're dealing with, might as well say, an enemy. We'll just throw this a political opponent rhetoric and everything in the trash. People that are not on board and don't recognize what Trump is trying to do for our civilization and the world. They're not simply a person we're disagreeing with. They're not opponents. They're enemies. The enemy within. Either that or nitwits that need to be educated. And success will bring some of the nitwits around. So then we can winnow it down to actual enemies instead of just nitwits. Hi, Sherry. Nice to see you. Robin, nice to see you. Darla, Sissy, Sherry, Randy, Miss Mendersue. How you doing, Miss Mendersue? Rebecca's here. Anthrax flannel cheese. All right. Darla's here. Robin's here. Let's see. There. Yeah, we got some people rolling in. So we found out that Rob Reiner, we'll touch on some topics we talked about last night, kind of get them up to speed. The situation with Rob Reiner, his son did get arrested, and he was involved in some heavy addiction from a very young age. That's all turned out to be true. Sue put that up there for us last night. And I'm doing good, Miss Minder Sue. So it's cold, though, isn't it? I hope you guys are leaving your faucets running a little bit so you don't get any frozen pipes. How is it in your all's territory? Have you got some brutal temperatures? But anyway, it's horrible what happened, and I know Trump put out a truth that a lot of people are uh, using it as an opportunity to denigrate Trump. But I've got my strong opinions on that too. I have given Rob Reiner his laurels for his work, and I have discussed how I hope that he would look through things through a different lens, a different prism, if you will. But the bottom line is he was a vicious person. And Trump is right. He was deranged. He tortured himself. And many people around him, as Trump pointed out, with his incessant vitriol. So it's sad what he was gifted. His father was a comedian. Carl Reiner was a funny guy, cornball, corny comedies, kind of like the Carol Burnett and Tim Conway and all, just old slapstick and cornball stuff. That's fine. It's funny. But his father was a comedian. He didn't inherit his father's sense of humor. So, in a way, it was a wasted opportunity. I won't say a totally wasted life, but I think he had a chapter that he could have wrote at the end of his life that would have been positive for many people spiritually, and including himself. And I kind of think about this. Candace Owens and Erica Kirk met today, right? And boy, I tell you what, that situation is a prime example how things can get eternally hostile and poisoned with the subject matter and the passion. And it seems that kind of lifelong anger is being tempered and possibly totally avoided. I'm bringing that up because Rob Reiner could have at least tried to reach out, tried to listen to some of the people that he was so readily berating and viciously accusing. But the people that were conservative around him were too cowed because he was an angry man and he would shut you out. So people couldn't be themselves around him for fear of retribution. And he cheated himself intellectually and spiritually out of the other side of the story that millions and millions of people in this country experience. He put himself in a bubble of anger that you couldn't pop. Not from the outside. The only one could pop that bubble was him. And he didn't do it. So his last interaction with his son was a horrible shouting match at a Christmas party of all things that ended up, as you know, with the loss of 2 lives. So we'll talk about that. And I will talk about Trump's response. He's a human being. And for a decade, he had to take that dung being slung at him and worse. And why was he like that? It's not rational. So anyway, we got other people coming in. Wow. Ha ha. Yeah. Let's see. Kim's here. Cole's here. Randy's here. Let's see. I will go up to where I thought I was and then come back down. Rain's here. Gary's here. Ha ha. Ha ha. And chairman of the board. All right. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I try to catch everybody. I got Robin. Let's see. But anyway, there's so much we're going to talk about. The Brown University debacle that's happened, a terrible situation. We got that DC police chief that resigned. It's coming out why. Not good news. Hunter Biden lost his law license. Why? He is the smartest guy Joe Biden ever met. How could he lose his law license in Connecticut? It's not like he was running around doing drugs and fornicating with minors overseas and stuff like that. Well, maybe he was, but that's not why he lost his law license. Judge Dugan, I'll call her Poo-Poo Dugan, the one who let that character out the door. He's back in his home country, walking around free. He's been deported. He's just as happy eating tortillas wherever the hell he came from as he was here. He's not facing a ruined career and possible prison, but Judge Dugan is. Her trial started today. We'll talk about that if I get to it. Judge Bozo Boasberg, okay? He got embarrassed by the Court of Appeals. And he got some homework to do. So what he got, like a little kid, he's got some homework to do. And, he's been involved in so much dirty stuff. I think he's going to be an example. I don't think he's going to be made an example. I think he is an example that will be exposed, okay, as part of this illegal psychological warfare campaigns and active subversion of a duly elected president. You had Trump designate illicit fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. He did that with a executive order. You know what that means for the cartels? It means trouble. Retire, okay? Go find something else to do. But they won't. Marjorie Taylor Greene got engaged. She's getting marred. I say that because I got invited to a wedding. I tell you what, I've been all over the spectrum. I've been to weddings where you got to wear a tuxedo. I've been to weddings where you can wear your steel-toed boots. And so that's a groom now, the groom. So we went to a wedding one time and they took off. What were they driving? A Javelin. Have y'all remember the Javelins out of the 60s? AMC Javelin. The lovely couple. And everybody got down at the VFW there. It was where the reception was. And everybody got lit and carrying on and playing the banjo. Hey, man, this is mountains, you know what I'm talking about? And off they went to their honeymoon. And I won't say where they went, but well, I'll say it's kind of like, it wasn't Disney World. It was King's Dominion. Something similar to King's Dominion, or what's that other place? But anyway, so off they went down the road with cans of Schlitz. Remember Schlitz beer? You opened it with a church key. Anyway, they had cans of Schlitz bouncing behind their AMC Javelin. No, those might have been the pull tabs, where you pull the tab off and you could throw them away, and they'd done away with those. But anyway, and on the back of the Javelin window, they wrote in soap, "Just marred." Whoever put it on the good smell, so they put just, they spelled that right, JUST MARRED, marred. So, we wish them all the best. And I imagine they're still together. I don't know, probably got a passel of kids. Hi, Elva, nice to see you. Roland's here, ladies. Sparky's here. Nice to see you. Gary was boots wearing shorts. There you go. So anyway, Marjorie Taylor Greene is engaged to be marred by I don't know the person. I've heard of the outfit. What's it called? I wrote it down. Let me see. If I could read my writing. Real Voice of America. A guy that's with that group or founded that group named Brian Glenn. So MTG is going to get marred. Wish him well. Anyway, what else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about this plot that got busted up in California. What do they call themselves? A Turtle Island gang or organization or whatever. A bunch of, I couldn't understand that. Called them anti-government. They're all in worms in a clump of dirt, the same bunch that we deal with on these campuses. And MS Motorsports, how you doing? I thank you all for being civil last night. When we had a couple of people come in, they were doing all caps, trying to provoke for not getting into a back and forth with them, and just ignore them. I take care of them. After the broadcast, I went back and took care of it, and I let them know if they want to, come back and act normal and make some friends. Fine, But anyway, thank you all for not being drawn into letting yourself be distressed by people that cause trouble in the chats. Sometimes they just want attention, Anyway, the Department of War has upgraded the Kelly investigation. Ukraine is Zelensky is making overtures for peace. We'll talk about that. So a lot of things on the side. The Clintons are not going to go to Congress. Oh, what's going to happen there? Yeah, Mr. Minister just tells them get lost. Yeah, and other than that, just ignore them. Oh my gosh, isn't that horrible about that young girl that got? We got to find out the story on who the perpetrator was. A girl in Georgia. I might as well talk about that now because she was sitting on a park bench and she thought somebody poured water on her head. And she said, I looked at my jeans or my clothing started melting, smoking and melting. Somebody poured acid on her head in Georgia. And she's wrapped, her face is completely wrapped, her hair and everything. Oh my God, it's going to be awful. Hi, Pappy, how you doing? Nice to see you. So, we'll hope, hi, Larry. We'll hope she has as best a recovery as possible. But I mean, I want to know who did it. I was thinking about that last night after I signed off. I was thinking, whatever happened to the Boston bombers? They're people that shouldn't have been in this damn country anyway. Because I remember when they were removing people from the scene. One guy in a wheelchair. Or no, they were carrying him. That's right. They were carrying him in a sling. And he didn't have any feet. We were never told the extent of the injuries in any great detail. And you got those two animals. Nothing's been done with them. Who is this son of a person that dumped acid on a young lady's head in the park? We need, as a nation, we need to buck up and fire up old Sparky, okay, and other methods that were already approved by Bill Barr. We're not going to tolerate it. We're going to save ourselves deportation flights, I can tell you that. Hi, Wayne, how you doing? Yes, please hit the thumbs up. Matter of fact, we might as well do it right now. Go ahead on out and podge, Podge, that like button, and it helps to get the video around. Ha ha ha! And even if it's after the live stream, you make sure you hit the like button. So, whatever happened to the Boston bomber, right? The both of them, and of course, one of them was younger and kind of a Luigi Mangione type, and starts getting fan mail. What the hell is the matter with these women? Probably some guys too. I don't know. I don't know. The world has gotten so odd. So odd. Brown University has an $8 billion reserve in endowments. $8 billion. Harvard, of course, dwarfs that, but they got 40 or 50 billion. But still, 8 billion ain't chump change. And they claim, excuse me, I just took a sip of my coffee. That was rude of me. I should have muted my mic. They claim that they had, what'd you all hear, 500 cameras? And they picked up the wrong guy, apparently, last night and let him go. So now they're looking for a guy. And I saw some pictures of him. I saw a bit of footage of him waddling around. And with all those cameras, campus security, nobody's got a clear view of who he is. Now, maybe they do. Like I opined before, sometimes it's best not to put out detailed photographs of a perpetrator if they're armed and dangerous. If you don't know who they're with, their location. So if you can find them or verify, because, hey, imagine he's sitting on a couch and he's your brother, your son, your nephew, a high school friend. You're by yourselves and you're looking at a report come up with his picture. You're in danger. And, these people, the self-preservation's their top priority. All they think about is themselves. And, and if you can't, within a reasonable amount of time, you do have a picture, then you put it out. But you have to try to locate a dangerous person without putting others in harm's way. So I don't know. Maybe they will have come up with something. But from what I saw, they said that the computer diagnostics of the video put him about 5'8", and he's a roly poly. He's got a big belly sticking out, and I've seen his type, and many of you may have. Walk with their toes sticking out, belly sticking out, shoulders back, head up so high they're kind of looking partially at the sky while they're walking, and they just waddle around, a kind of a baby Huey walk with the toes splayed outwards. That's the signs of someone who doesn't engage in a lot of physicality, okay? Probably last time they broke out in a run was when they heard the ice cream truck, okay? And apparently has got leftist leanings. Very similar to the Turtle Island gang. Okay, pro-Palestine, anti-ICE, pro-Islam, pro-everything, but the people that are getting up and going to work every day to make this country what it is. So he shouldn't be too hard to find. Shouldn't be too hard to find. And that's going to be my guess. He's going to be an overweight, butterball, high soy content liberal. And his victim, I wrote that down. Let me see if I can find it. Wouldn't you know, was the vice president of the Brown University Republicans, is one of the victims. A young lady, she was a sophomore. Now, this could be somebody from out of the area, because nowadays you can have a psycho coming after you over a tweet, and you've never laid eyes on them in your life. And they see who you are, they know where you are. And so it could be somebody relatively divorced or never involved with this individual through a social media interaction. And these cowards, when they decide they're going to make a stand, supposedly for their beliefs, it doesn't surprise me the first one he chooses is a female. You think he would try that with a 6'3", hard-handed character, male? No. Why do you think so many of the pew-pews happen in elementary schools? Because the victims are much less likely to be able to fight back. But I heard some from some people that saw more footage, said that he was kind of casing the place. So it didn't seem at first blush that he was overly familiar with the facilities. But if he had to do a lot of casing and they had a lot of cameras, they should have more footage. So his casing may have been to find out where she specifically was, not that he didn't know his way around. So I'm thinking he is familiar with the campus, and he probably said something that on the internet that was mocked, And the internet's for everybody knows that. And they get their itty bitty feelings hurt. And then they go out for vengeance. So I hope they catch him within the next 48 hours. I think you're going to see a fat version of a Thomas Crooks type with a shorter haircut, but just a fat loser. So Trump brought it up, though. Hey, you got to talk to the school. They kept saying, why didn't the FBI have anybody yet? Trump was saying they got a lot of money. And they're supposed to have a lot of security. They do have a lot of uniformed people around. How did this person, if he was a student, he should be identifiable. If he wasn't a student, what the hell is some oddball doing wandering around campus and not being challenged? He was wearing a mask. And I've heard people say, well, COVID made that normal. And bad people are getting away with stuff because nobody thinks anything about a mask anymore. Like hell. What did I say the other day? When you see somebody with a mask in this day and age, if they're not like elderly or somebody that is just a boxed wine crazy cat woman, you know what you're getting there. But for a relatively young person, still wearing, they're up to no good or they're crazy. Okay, that situation with the virus didn't change our instincts. You're looking at trouble. So, but this is California. Hi, Darla. Nice to see you. Who'd I miss? So anyway, let's see when they get caught. And all these high-profile crimes that have been committed. I mean, very high-profile. If they're not Islamofascists or immigrants or other forms of individuals that should not be in this country, homegrown, they are of the left. These crimes are of the left. And that leads to this police chief, what's her face, okay, tries to dress and look like a man there in D.C. that resigned. What's she in hot water for? Why did she resign? She resigned because somebody dropped a dime on her, and somebody told her probably to her face that she's a fraud and that she has been manipulating these crime statistics. And that's exactly what's going on. What did they say? They said she used fear, intimidation, and threats to manipulate crime data. That is, in my opinion, illegal psychological warfare campaign. Not only is it fraud, defrauding the people, and maligning groups of people by having somebody named Pedro Pascual Jesus DJ whatever. Check that box. He's a white guy. There are people that are overtly black Haitians. Check the box, white. And it all goes to the computer. Nobody says it. Now they're starting to match it up. But the thing is, as I've said before, this stuff is coordinated at some level. level of authority of these infiltrators, okay, these insurgents. Remember, they're the insurgency. We are the counterinsurgency. They're at a wide spectrum of responsibility and level of office. And they somehow communicate and coordinate the, quote, message or messages. How are they all on the same page? I'll give you an example that pertains to this situation. Remember, the first one that came up with calling someone of a Latin American descent a white person was Al Sharpton. Remember that? What's the episode I'm talking about? The guy that was buying Skittles. You guys might remember the names. Oh gosh, he was on a neighborhood watch, and he caught somebody looking in people's windows, and he tried to follow the person, and he called the police, and this person jumped him and beat on him with his head on a concrete sidewalk, and he pulled out his firearm and discharged it. What was that kid's name? They called, well, he wasn't a kid, he was an adult, wasn't he? But they said, oh, he's just buying Skittles. George, oh gosh. Anyway, the one with the neighborhood watch that ended up defending himself and got acquitted, Al Sharpton called him a white Mexican. So that is the earliest point I can think of, and maybe other examples earlier than that. George Zimmerman. Remember? Am I right about that? Was it Zimmerman? But anyway, he was Hispanic. His mother, and one of the reporters tried to correct him. He said, because at first he said he was just white, and one of the people on his same panel said, well, I thought he was Hispanic. And he said, and he was a white Mexican. So they've been passing it around their big club. No, it wasn't Kyle Rittenhouse. It was before that. Yeah, Zimmerman. Robin got it right. So they're coordinating a message. They are conspiring, in other words. It's evidence of conspiracy. If you can show that this police chief, DC police chief, who just resigned, was coordinating with others because they're doing it in Texas, changing the race knowingly, making it policy, where people like Ilhan Omar, who wants Sharia law, gets on. So the most dangerous thing we have to worry about is the statistics show white people and white males are very dangerous. And then you have Don Lemon parroting the same damn crap. Was it Mark Zimmerman or George Zimmerman? I don't remember. But he was acquitted. He could spend the rest of his life in jail. Kyle Rittenhouse, same thing. To this day, there are people running around thinking Kyle Rittenhouse shot black people. Didn't shoot one person of color. But to this day, they're doing it. So we got a coordination going on. And we got coordination going on with these damn judges. What do we have in the news today? We had Dugan, Dugan, Bozo Boasberg, and Zenus, all of them doing their damnedest to protect illegal aliens and set precedents that will frustrate a return to normal, some type of normalcy in this country from the assault we suffered during the White House capture of the White House that occurred in 2020. The White House was captured by foreign influenced individuals, insurgency. Yeah, Sparky, white people are all right. You got to watch it when you say that, Deb. But anyway, Boasberg got her first day at trial. And one of the jurors called in sick. Well, I hope they're, okay. And people get sick, but apparently there's something going around because somebody in a court transcript said, well, stuff's going around. And they got 14 jurors. They got 2 alternates and 12 regular jurors. So they were kind of in a pickle. Well, do we, postpone it a day and hope the person gets better? Maybe it's 2-day or 3-day illness. What do we do? Or do we proceed? And then we'll be down to 13 jurors, which means you've only got 1 alternate. If somebody on the jury has the nerve to pass away during the trial, you need an alternate, or something else happens and they can't serve. You've only got 1 alternate. So I remember somebody say, many years ago, during a real estate class, buyers buying a home. I was trying to get a real estate license. I was in my 20s and went to a symposium. And one of the guys giving a talk, he said, believe it or not, you'll be getting to a settlement table where you get a $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 commission check. He said, what buyers have the nerve to do? And everybody's sitting there, what do they have the nerve to do? They have the nerve to die before they get to the settlement table. He said, always remember that. So that's why I said somebody who could have the nerve. What nerve? But anyway, little things like that stick in my head because you never know what's going to happen. Like Trump said today, you can't predict. They were asking him about what's going on with Zelensky and Putin and Russia. He said, you can't predict wars. Or is it up to 30 now? 30 wins? Yeah, you're probably right. What was the win today? It was concerning Bozoberg. Well, I'll get to him in a second. Judge Dugan, they showed. Turns out the door that she sent them out had 2 ways you could go. The hallway she sent them. You could go down the steps and get down to the ground floor. And you're free. Yeah, out the door you go. Well, they didn't take the hint. And they didn't go down the steps, but they got out the door farther away from the ICE agents. If they'd used their kidneys, I'm poking the side of my head right now, their kidneys, they would have gone down the steps. And the ICE, people would have had a much harder time catching them. But that was Dugan's intention. They had tape recordings where she was saying, we'll send them out the door with the steps. She wanted them to go down the steps and avoid the hallway. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting. And I, you never know with the complexion of the jury or the mental state of the jury. And the ads that I pointed out that had been went for almost a month straight about the power of jury nullification, just on YouTube. I'm sure it came other places also. So anyway, And the defense attorney, in his opening statement, was talking about ICE was the agents were communicating with each other on signal. Oh, okay, so, well, he goes, the same thing that Hegseth communicates on. And the prosecution said, well, I object. What? Why would you put that in? And the judge said, I'll let it stand. Why get in art? Talk about being petty and appealing to somebody's political stances and preconceived notions. Bring up Pete Hegseth because the ICE agents were communicating on signal. So, and their code name, what was it? Their code name was Frozen Water, was the name of their group. Frozen Water. That means, of course, ice, right? So, anyway, now Bozoberg, and now for people that aren't up to speed, now, I know everybody in my chats right now are totally up to speed, and I don't want to waste your time, but you never know who's going to tune into the broadcast. Bozoberg is a long time friend of Supreme Court Justice John Roberts. As a matter of fact, they roomed together in college, and Roberts nominated Bozoberg to be the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit. Or it's not even a circuit. I don't know what the hell they call it. But anyway, Bozoberg was one of the tough judges. They used to call them hang judges. One of the hard-nosed judges during the J and then 6, okay? He had no qualms about taking a 70-some-year-old woman who just walked in the Capitol and looked around and said, oh, this is nice, and putting her in jail for 2 years. He didn't give a damn. He also was in charge of the FISA courts. Warrants. Secret warrants. They're called FISA warrants. And he was approving these FISA warrants. And we know many of those warrants were abused, altered, fraudulent. And they were used to spy on candidate Trump, President-elect Trump, and eventually President Trump. Not only that, but Bozoberg approved warrants to get phone records, communications, details in secret on members of Congress, representatives, and senators. And we know that before Donald Trump took the oath of office, during a some type of I'll call it a symposium again, or meeting of all the chief justices or judges. Justices are in the Supreme Court, judges are in the lower courts. A symposium. Bozoberg asked John Roberts, what do we do if Donald Trump disobeys court orders? Already girding himself for a conflict, very public, of course, between the executive branch and the judicial branch. Spoiling for a fight, spoiling for a constitutional crisis. Well, anyway, he's the same damn judge that ordered planes to be turned around and illegal aliens to be brought back into this country, exceeded his jurisdiction and his authority. and was smacked down by the appellate court and Supreme Court over that. He didn't have a right to do that. So he is seeking contempt, criminal contempt against Kristi Noem, whoever he can credibly hook with criminal contempt charges. Emil Bove, who was working for the administration during the illegal order to turn planes around, who's now his superior judge. He was approved to be on the appellate court above this moron. And whoever else is in the administration, I had a couple other names I can't remember. So he's trying to get them for criminal contempt, and it was appealed. There was written responses made, even by Emil Bove, to his inquiry. He's holding an inquiry. Judges can't hold. What the hell? So anyway, the courts, I said he got some homework to do. The courts stayed his hearings that he's trying to hold, force members of the high-ranking members of the administration to attend his circus hearings. And they said, okay, we're going to freeze that. But the administration's got to submit a written explanation of this, that, or whatever. And then Bozoberg, well, they actually said the plaintiffs, which were the illegal alien attorneys, okay, which really means Bozoberg. You have to submit to us in writing what authority you're relying on to be able to have these types of hearings, where a judge turns himself, well, this is my language, but it's basically what it is, where a judge turns himself into an investigative body, a prosecutorial body, a policing body, when he's supposed to be judging the facts on the issues placed before him. Not being a cop, not playing investigator, not playing prosecutor. Write it all down and get it to us. So they got their homework to do, and they're going to look like idiots. Well, they're going to be exposed as idiots. There's a difference. You can have a rational, smart person look like an idiot. And then you can have a idiot be exposed as an idiot. I've seen plenty of smart guys that said something wrong and knew it right away, and they're not idiots, but they look like an idiot. Not the case with Bozoberg. So anyway, it's going to be fun. And I encourage you to go to the attorney, Andrew Branca, to keep up with the updates in his analysis. I enjoy it thoroughly. And the other one's Judge Zenas. And she's in put herself in a odd spot, painted herself in a corner. And with this Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's wandered around our great land, thinking everything, I'm out. Well, you ain't out for long. Because she's claiming that there was never a final order of deportation. From 2019, we've been dealing with this guy who shouldn't even be in the country, who's reproducing brand new American citizens, according to the left, while he's here with an illegal presence. And anyway, so the bottom line with that is, well, if what you're saying is true, Judge Zenas, then his appeal that's keeping him out of jail is worthless. He's appealing something you say doesn't exist. I'm not going to get too technical on it. She's claiming that the judge in 2019 did not write specific words down like, this is your final order of deportation. They didn't have that her vernacular, her exact phraseology. She desires to take it as a final order. So there's no final order of deportation. Sorry, you got to let him go, and you can't deport him because the language isn't right in the order. And the judge that did the order said, okay, I'll correct it. He corrected it. I'll write it the way you want it written. He wrote it the way she wanted. Oh, no, that's not too late now. He's entitled to due process, poo-poo process. Okay. So the administration's saying, well, then his appeal is moot. The appeals court got nothing to do because you say the thing he's appealing doesn't exist. So he falls under the category of a wandering illegal immigrant. That's my terminology, but you get the point. He's just somebody wandering around that doesn't belong in the country, and there's plenty of statutes and codes really, that authorize ICE to arrest him. Your court doesn't have the authority to stop that. And you yourself is saying that there's nothing. He's just an illegal immigrant wandering about, subject to arrest and detention under law. So they got a short period of time to respond. And I'm sure they know exactly where he is, and they'll pick him up. So how are they going to handle that? That's going to be bubbling up in the next couple of days, even though it's taking a long time. And there's another guy, I meant to check it out, that other character. Who's the one? Who's the one that was walking around Harvard? Was it Harvard or Columbia? Columbia. Pushing around Jewish people and taking over the libraries. And who is that? Is he still in the country? You know what she's doing? I call it the Engoron game. The Engoron game. Remember, I played a video of Judge Engoron. He's the one that tried to say Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million. When people are reputable, knowledgeable, people are saying, are you out of your damn mind? You know, it's in the billions. Anyway, Engoron did a interview with somebody, and he was saying, well, there's such a thing that I can use as a judge. One of them is the jury's verdict notwithstanding. The jury's verdict notwithstanding, which means he has the power to change the jury's verdict. And one of his other things he can do is say, they claim that the man in the red sweater did this, that, and this. Well, what if I say, and then he puts his eyebrows up, that it was a green sweater? So in other words, what he's talking about is pettifogging in my book, which is a term they're not allowed to use in professional practice, but I use it. And it's just cheap runarounds. That's exactly what Zenus is doing. And I call it the Engoron game. So FISA works both ways. We got two examples of coordinated efforts to subvert the political will of the American people. Attempts to defraud the American people out of their own choice of government, of type of governance they want. With the changing the race of people, using threats, coercion, and you got judges coordinating together how to manipulate the law with the sole purpose of violating the law. That goes to Tina Peters, like I was talking about last night. How the hell can you have a state law saying that if you obey federal law, you're in violation of state law? Riddle me that. Answer that. So something's gonna happen. And I'm not going to make any promises. I'm not going to make any predictions. But when Trump says stuff like, we got truckloads of evidence, we have all the ammunition about a stolen election, don't think for a minute that that's all they got truckloads of evidence about. They can put their minions in their big brain trusts or whatever on how to trick the American people, how to gauge lawfare, how to defraud taxpayers, how to run schemes on mortgages, how do we get U.S. aid money back into our pockets. They got people, that's all they do, is constantly look at existing programs, existing laws, how to skirt it, how to profit from it, how to gain power, and how to create even more boondoggles that they can. But my point is, we got people too, okay? Part of the people are called military intelligence, and they can trace the intricate webs. Like Donald Trump said, it's an intricate web. So we're going to find these intricate webs. FISA works both ways. We'll get communications where these people are conspiring, colluding, whatever you want to call it. They're all Confederates, loyal to whatever it is they've sworn to, or that they've jumped on the bandwagon to, that is directly in opposition to the Constitution and lawful operation of our government. Oh, sorry to hear that, Roland. Yeah, Gary. Yeah, I don't want to put too much of my own life experiences out there, but there was a time in your life, people talking about past relationships. There were a time in your life where you felt the person was really special, and I don't know how that ever goes away. While you're both on this earth. Roland, I'm sorry you lost your wife. But yeah, you as adults, you don't ever want to let somebody that played an important role in your life, you don't ever want to let them down. But I'll get back to this Rob Reiner thing. It's horrible. And an analysis of the information we have about the last hours, I believe hours of Rob Reiner's life. He dealt with a problem with screaming and yelling, apparently, at a public, well, public-private, big Christmas party at a famous person's house, right? You blow your cork, you lose your cool, just like 10 years plus of all his tweets. Words mean things. And you can't argue or holler or yell at someone with an addiction or an alcoholic, or you're not going to verbally beat somebody into doing what you want. The only thing you're going to do is embarrass them, anger them, or in some cases they take their own lives. So Rob Reiner was a hostile person with a big ego. I gave him his laurels. I spoke highly of him because I thought a lot of his work. I said it was artful. It is art to make movies, to touch people in a generational way. Takes talent. And the fact that he wasted it. He could have wrote, as I said earlier in the broadcast, he could have wrote at least one more chapter, a good chapter, to try to reach out to others and unify. But instead, he constantly called conservatives horrible things. He created an atmosphere where it was dehumanizing millions of people. And people talk about Trump's response. Trump had to live with the consequences of his vicious rhetoric, his blatant lies. His family had to live with it. But even bigger than that, like Trump said, if I would have been president, there would not have been a war. The Russia thing, Trump brought that up today about Rob Reiner. He was a very influential person. People took what he said as gospel, and he knew it. So he contributed to this TDS culture. He made it acceptable for people to slander, libel, and speak with vitriol about an entire group of fellow Americans. Any other person would have got their eyeballs sued out of their head. And maybe that's what he was facing. But just something before I get into what happened, something for you all to think about. Every little thing Trump did that was perceived as a wrong, they latch onto and conflate, expand, exaggerate. Rob Reiner did the same thing. From feeding a goldfish in, okay, to Elon Musk throwing his heart out, they turn it into a notch. Every little thing they can think of. Except one with Rob Reiner. One thing he never discussed. Hi, Randy. What's the one thing he never discussed? See who gets it first. Felix. Melvita. Well, Rush Limbaugh said it, words have meaning. So if they're going to take every scenario, and when he tossed the coin at the football game, they were complaining about that. Hi, Hawks, how you doing? One thing you never heard Rob Reiner talk about, and his anger and vitriol was not, it was something more than hatred. And it was desperation I got out of it. I listened to his rant about Trump back when he was running against Hillary Clinton. And he brought up every single talking point. And I'll tell you what it is that he didn't bring up. That everybody else was bringing up. The island. I never heard Rob Reiner refer to Trump as a P3DO or accuse him of doing anything with Epstein. Isn't that funny? When every damn thing on how Trump combed his hair, how he got 2 scoops of ice cream, the Russia, everything except that. Somebody might prove me wrong, but I don't remember him ever saying anything about it. I don't remember Rosie O'Donnell saying anything about it. I don't remember Ellen DeGeneres saying anything about it. But every other drumbeat talking point they bring up. So anyway, there have been a lot of rumors about Carl Reiner. That I'm not even going to, that they saying that he was not good to his son, Rob Reiner. I don't have never heard that except recently, but, we're in an age where people grab any straw, any thread. I remember I told you all how I was talking to somebody that was a producer for another broadcaster. I call them broadcasters. They put on shows, and pretty, a lot of viewers, and they wanted me to be a guest on their show. And I said, I don't want to get into all that conspiracy. I know there is stuff that is crazy and real, but you guys talk about crazy that's just crazy. I don't want to talk about stuff like that. And I don't want to get into things. Oh yeah, but people really love listening to you. I said, well, we were having a general conversation, and I said, one thing I wanted to bring up that I don't want to get the ball started on it though, but it would freak people out if they knew. What is it? What is it? I said, well, James Brown, he died in weird circumstances. And he did. And we were talking about it. And I said, well, not a lot of people know that he had an affair with Princess Di. Yeah, they had a love child. It's Candace Owen. Candace Owens, a love child of James Brown and Princess Di. Yeah. Oh my God. And then I laughed. I said, see, I got you. I can make up crap and spread it around. I could have 10,000 people tuning in to me listening to that crap. But anyway, that was a long time ago. But it's true. Some people just love. And I just made that up out of my old dusty brain. I just made it totally up. There's no validity to it. except me playing a joke. But anyway, so I don't talk about Carl Reiner supposedly doing anything bad to Rob Reiner. From all my accounts that I have heard over the many years, is that Rob Reiner had a very good upbringing, was a very fortunate son, was a natural in the entertainment business. But there are many naturals that never get a chance. Never. You heard A Star Is Born. Well, there are many stars that never got to shine in this world, and he got it handed to him on a silver platter, a golden platter. Carl Reiner and Norman Lear were the biggest influences on family television entertainment in the 60s and 70s, on into the 80s, even the 90s. Carl Reiner and Norman Lear. And he was a beneficiary of that. And it just so happened he had talent. And in my mind, he threw away a golden opportunity to help change the world. But then I asked myself why. And it hit me last night. Wait a minute. He grabs at every straw, tries to turn every straw into a stick to beat Donald Trump with, but never once mentioned the island. You know, he did a movie with his son collaborating. That's the interview I watched. It was a movie about rehab. I'm not sure of the name of the movie. It was not as big as Stand By Me or Misery or Princess Bride, which I think was his, as far as cultural reaching into generations. I think Princess Bride is something you can have your child watch and not worry about them being corrupted or it's a genuine story that's enjoyable to watch. But he did this movie about rehab, and his son collaborated, and they were doing an interview and his son was 22 years old. This was back in 2016 when Trump was running against Hillary. And they were both sitting side by side talking to the interviewer. And he said, my son put a lot of input in this because of his experience. His son had gone into rehab the first time he went into rehab for, hard drugs. He was 15 years old. I know when you're a famous person and you're doing all these projects and all this stuff, you don't have a lot of time. Celebrities are the worst for being absent parents. But you know what? When you got a 15-year-old, I don't know if it was heroin or what, but it was serious enough to have them involuntarily confined to get them off drugs. You drop the ball. You drop the ball. But you all remember Carol O'Connor? Hi, Goldilocks. Being Charlie. That's right. Being Charlie. I was going to say the name Charlie, but then I thought, I'd probably get it wrong, so I won't say it. But thank you for filling me in on that, Goldilocks. Welcome aboard. You all remember Carol O'Connor. Carol O'Connor played, let's see who gets it. Da, 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 da. Boom, 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 boom. Carol O'Connor played who? There's a up to 20-second delay. Oh, well, we already have a winner. We got two winners. Sparky and Kim got it. Archie Bunker. Oh, and his most famous role, not as director of this movie or director of that movie. He's always been known as Meathead. And Archie Bunker lost his son to addiction. You would think that if not personally, professionally, they would be very close. And Carol O'Connor died in 2001, I believe. And I remember right up to damn near the day he died, he was fighting to have the person that was selling his son drugs arrested. He wanted something done about the dealers. And I don't know if he ever got that satisfaction before he died. And Rob Reiner's gone. All the opportunities that he had to do wonderful things are gone. So what's the point? The point is, maybe someone else will be in a similar position. I'm surprised that he did not make it more public about Carol O'Connor's struggle and terrible loss of his son. Why didn't he see that parallel in his own life with his own son and what happened to Carol O'Connor and his son? And why did he parlay that into a way to communicate to his son what would be the end of the road if he didn't take the fork in the road? And why he didn't, not only his personal relationship with his son, but the public in general. Share those stories so that others can learn from them. That's a powerful story. Carol O'Connor died with a broken heart over his son. And he dedicated literally the last months of his life to try to find some kind of justice and some kind of change in the laws to protect people in the future. Yeah, Bridge Too Far. That had who else was it? Well, I'm thinking Bridge Over River Kwai. That was Alec Guinness. But yeah, Bridge Too Far. Yeah, I remember that. So anyway, at last night, I had not heard about Donald Trump's tweet yet. I had not heard about Candace Owen meeting with Erica Kirk till after my broadcast, I believe. I'm trying to go on memory. But I remember thinking to myself, if he would have just reached out, if him and his wife would have buried their anger and done this country a favor, I guarantee you, they could have had dinner at the White House. I guarantee you, Melania Trump would have welcomed Margaret, his wife. And I guarantee you, they could have had a frank talk. Trump did it with Bill Maher. Trump's done it with a lot of people. But he didn't want to, air quotes, lower himself, question mark. And I'm thinking, what a moment that would have been if there would have been a connection, if there would have been a collaboration between Margaret Reiner and Melania Trump for some of the projects Melania is working on about helping children. Would it have been a cultural plus, a uplifting of our national dialogue for him to meet with Donald Trump and give the office of the presidency, our nation, the greatest nation in world history, the President of the United States. You wouldn't have been lowering yourself, Robert. You'd have been raising yourself. You'd have raised yourself in the eyes of history. You'd have uplifted the American civilization by finding common ground. And you didn't do it. That's when, as I laid down my weary head to go into my evening repose, it dawned on me. What's the one thing he never beat Trump over the head with? That he was quiet about. That everybody else was raising hell about. Especially in the last 6 months. The island. The island. He couldn't afford. And Donald Trump didn't make that comment he made. As I have quoted, a lot of people use in the mafia, not for nothing. Donald Trump doesn't say things not for nothing. He knew that was a brusque, rather harsh comment, but it was not for nothing. He knows a lot more than we know, Donald Trump. Always remember that before you judge what he says or what he does. Holy cow, I've been all through this broadcast. I appreciate a thumbs up, you all. If you haven't, give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and dip out right now. Podge that like button. It helps the videos get around. Come back in. And remember, this is a commercial-free broadcast. Why is it commercial-free? Because I'm a totally viewer-supported program, and I rely on my viewers to show their support and their appreciation for my efforts at Buy Me a Coffee. I have a link in the description. And you know what? Everybody rallied through this past week, and I appreciate it so much. Everybody that stopped by to see me, well, buy me a coffee. I put a link in no, I didn't yet. Tom Fitness hot. Finished up, helped to finish up the week. Brush, Wayne, Tammy, Norm. Wayne went by a couple of times. And Mike and Bev, Pappy Jubers. And holy cow, Miss Menderson, yes, she came by, and Ann came by. Yeah, there's one other person that helped last night. Was it Wayne? I know Wayne went by, and Miss Menderson and Ann. Who am I missing? I'll give a double shout out tomorrow night. Oh, I'm not broadcasting tomorrow night. Um, I remember Tom Fitness Hot. I don't see him now, but they got the handle Tom Fitness Hot. We used to be on the same. What was it? Frank show, the NPC show. I would see, I'd see him in there. But anyway, um, I do appreciate everybody that's gone by, and if I miss a name, I will make up for it because I constantly thank people, especially throughout weeks. So we finish up a week. We're in a new week. Uh, Holy cow! We're going into the third week of December. And don't forget the reason for the season, my friends. Christmas is coming up. And many of us are at that point in our lives where, people we celebrated with in the past have gone on to their great reward, So, but we still celebrate Christmas, and we always remember the reason for the season. So what's your opinions on my notions about Mr. Reiner? I'm concur with Trump that he should, and Trump did laud him for his past successes. But he's reminding us that that kind of rhetoric, especially coming from somebody in such high cultural standing, is harmful. Damn it, it costs people their lives in the Ukraine war, the Russia hoax. And it causes strife and division at home with families and people at work. So he should not be given a pass on that. And the power he had to do good, why didn't he at least try like Bill Maher did? I don't think a lot of Bill Maher, but I will say this, he did meet with Trump, and he didn't throw dung afterwards. And that's what leads me to believe, especially his silence about the biggest issue going on right now, which is the Epstein list. He was totally silent on it. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But if I'm right, it's very telling. I know the feeling. I know the feeling, Gary, on that debit thing. I told you all what happened to my. I like being able to talk without producing. What do you all like, folks? I got a lot of people in the chats. What do you like? I mean, the picture shows, a lot of times I show videos. The next day, there's 20 people showing the same videos I showed. And I spend the whole day. Now, like I said, I was uploading the terrible attack. I was going to have to edit out because I was getting raw footage of the attack in Australia. And what's the response in Australia to the attack? Well, anyway, while I was doing that, everything got corrupted to my phone. No, I can't even take a screenshot. I can't pull up a picture. And I've got pictures of myself when I went to prom. A friend of mine sent me when you all were talking about maintaining relationships. with past uh, love interests, let's say. But anyway, I'm sure I can get another copy of that. But I was a good looking man, let me tell you that. But anyway, and that's keyword there's was, W-A-Z. Rain likes picture shows. You don't like these talks, Rain? You don't like it when I just do a stream of consciousness, the inner workings of the mind of mountain man. You'd rather watch videos. Randy says both. Well, I am technically crippled right now. Technically crippled. So I was, like I said, I was getting footage from that horrible attack. And what they want to do in Australia is increase the gun laws. What a bunch of idiots. Because if somebody put out a tweet, if it wasn't guns, they'd be using cars. If it wasn't cars, they'd be using bombs. If it wasn't bombs, they'd be using knives. If it wasn't knives, they'd be using clubs. It's not the choice of weapon. It's the people that are wielding them. So, I was going to get into what happened to Rob Reiner and his wife. Apparently, they got in a big blow up. A egotistical, angry, loud man berating and arguing. You can't argue with a drug addict. You can't. It's a way. There's nothing good going to come of it. I remember a time years ago. We had this character. I'll call him Slim. That wasn't his real name, but he's going on to his great reward. It really doesn't matter. But anyway, I'll just make a habit of it. Call him Slim. He broke into a building a friend of mine had called a hardware store because he needed to steal stuff so he could get booze. He was a drunk. And we caught him. We said, look, we've known him for years, always bumming money, always wandering around drunk, lived at his mother's, and he was in his mid-50s, almost 60 years old. Said, we're going to put your ass in jail. You, Jimmy, you broke the daggone door jamb, you dope. As many times as somebody gives you $1 here and $1 there, that's when $1 was $1. Why would you sit here and break his damn door? I'm sorry. I can't take it no more. I can't take this drinking no more. Well, you want to dry out? Yeah, I need help. And he really did. And so he said, all right, get in a car, get in a truck. We'll take you up to the hospital and tell them you're having withdrawals and you need help. So we dumped him in the back of the pickup truck. Now they say you can't ride somebody around the back of a pickup truck. Okay, so we got a stinking drunk who's not related to us. We're just trying to help some soul. And, of course, we're riding in front of the truck. We're not putting him in a truck between us. But, my God, he smelled like a brewery. This stinking old drunk. So we dumped him in the back of the truck and head up to the hospital. About 20, maybe closer to a half-hour drive. He's laying back there crying because he's got the shakes. And we take him to the hospital. What's wrong? We go to the emergency room. So this guy here needs help. He needs drying out. He needs something. And They said, well, he's sober. We can't do anything with him. He's not drunk. We looked at each other and said, what? He's having a fit. We don't know what to do with him. They said, well, he's sober. We can't do it. I said, well, we'll take care of that. So we get back in the back of the truck, and the truck he goes. Went down to 7-Eleven, got a 12-pack. Gave it to him. Took off riding around. How you doing back there, Slim? I'm doing all right. Drink him up. Drink it up. Oh, I don't feel so good. Keep drinking, boy. Drink. Got him. Next thing you know, he was walking 3 feet off the ground. He was so high. He was drunk. So we went back to the hospital, got him by each elbow and waddled him on in there. Whoa, he's just drunk as could be. Here he is. He's drunk enough for you. Well, they ended up keeping him 3 months. 3 months. Usually it's 72 hours. And then if they're not having physical reactions that are dangerous or talking about hurting themselves, after 72 hours, they let them go. If they're having problems during 72 hours, they keep them for a month. 3 months? They said he was on a precipice. He was on a razor's edge with his liver condition. He had suicidal thoughts, that he was just barely clinging. And we didn't prosecute him. He never broke in again. But somebody we knew for years damages a friend's business and breaks in to steal stuff because they're having withdrawals. Beating on him, yelling at him, calling him names, throwing him out in the street, taking him to the jailhouse. He probably would have died in jail from DTs. That's what I'm saying about Rob Reiner. You can't treat somebody that is having withdrawals or a heavy addiction. It is a serious medical issue. And yelling at them ain't going to change it. And I can speculate. His personality, it probably made him feel good to berate his son in front of others. I may be stepping out of line with that. But when you feel that you can talk about the President of the United States in front of the world in the manner that he talked about Trump and berate his supporters, 80 million people in the U.S., billions around the world, you can talk to people like that. What do you think his son, how much of a chance you think his son had? And what will happen to them from the reports I've heard, if they're accurate, it was rage. Rage. They were talking about Billy Crystal went to the house. They said he went there because they needed him to identify them, because the damage was so brutal. I'm not justifying it at all. But I'm saying, when you make vitriol, hate, and hostile, violent language a part of your life, you'll reap what you sow. And unfortunately, other people will reap what you sow when you have influence and power and the ear of the world. Something very rare and precious that he had. And look what he did with it. So I don't blame Trump one bit for what he said. All right, folks. What do I always say? I need to keep my broadcast down to an hour and a half, but I've been going over it. But anyway, I do appreciate, let me check my messages here, my comments, because when I go into It's hard to read and keep a thought. And, oops. Wait a minute, what am I doing? And that's a true story about Slim, except the name. I changed the name. He died about, he made another 15 years. And he would not have made it that long if we hadn't done our 12-pack riding around the back of the truck beer run. Now, all that's illegal. We would go to jail for open container, even though we were sitting in the cab and he was in the back of the truck. He'd have gone to jail for riding in the back of a truck. Man, can't anybody be good old country boys anymore? They make it to where you got to get a permit to get a permit. You need permission for everything. All right, folks, what do I always say? I say thank you for spending your precious time with me. And it is precious time. And I really value you all spending your time with me and me getting to let it all out. So anyway, folks, I hope you all have a great evening. And I hope you're all getting ready to have a wonderful Christmas, a Merry Christmas. And let's hope that there's no more tragedies and keep your head on a swivel. All right, folks? But you all have a great night. I'll be seeing you soon. This is Mountain Man, over and out.